Hey, what's up, Santi here. Today I want to talk about the cycle that every productivity person goes through at the moment of finding new applications. So you and I very well know this feeling of being super excited about a new application, thinking it's going to make us more productive, it's going to make our workflow so much better, and then we're often met with disappointment. So without further ado, here are the stages of discovering new productivity applications. So to name them all, number 1 would be frustration, followed by epic discovery, then hope, then doubt, and from there is a cycle, so it repeats again back into frustration. So let's unpack them one by one. Number 1 is frustration, and to me this is kind of the stage where you realize that you have a problem with your current system, with your current applications, whatever you're using. Maybe you are depending too much on Microsoft Word or an older app like Evernote or OneNote, and you realize that these apps are not really helping you achieve whatever you want to achieve, whether you're trying to write a book, write blog posts, make videos, script them, anything like that, any project that you might have, you realize that maybe your tools are limiting you, so you're frustrated. So the frustration really acts as a way to motivate us to break the status quo, to break whatever state we're currently in, so that we can find something better, which takes us to the second step of the cycle, which is epic discovery. Now, during this stage, we are obviously excited. We realize that, wow, there's a world of possibilities, so many applications out in the world that we can benefit from. You dig deeper into this world, realizing that there's many people reviewing applications, there's many people trying to share whatever apps they're currently using, and you fall straight into it and you love it. And now that leads you to the next stage, which is hope, right? And in this stage of hope, you realize, wow, okay, I found a couple of apps that I really enjoy. I'm trying to see the pros and cons of each to see which one I stick to. You are super excited. You really believe that whatever application you end up using is going to change your life, is going to change your work, is going to help you take your work or whatever you're doing to the next level. And I do believe it's possible. I do believe that the tools you use are really going to help you to propel whatever you're doing to a next level. But we need to consider that after hope, after this stage where we reach our peak of excitement and we really think we have discovered the perfect app for us, then the next stage kicks in, and this one is doubt. And doubt is a bitch. Because it feels like everything is falling down, right? All this excitement that we had, all these reasons to believe that whatever application we chose for our workflow is perfect, that this idea that we had that everything was finally going to work out starts falling apart, and we start saying like, okay, maybe this app is not the best long term, maybe whatever I'm doing with it is not the best possible use of it, and then you start falling into the next stage, which is completing the cycle, frustration again. Because the doubt took you there, now you believe that whatever application that you're using is not good enough, and here you are in this cycle of frustration, epic discovery, hope, doubt, frustration again. Now, all of these reflections, these ideas that I'm sharing with you, obviously come from me trying to be aware of what my personal journey has been like with productivity apps and this productivity hobby that I have, or lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. This is a cycle that I end up falling back again and again. And I guess one of the things that you need to do first is to recognize it. As I start using more applications and I try to solve different types of problems for whatever workflow I'm trying to create, I have struggled with the question, like, can you really break this cycle? And I have a couple of thoughts that I think could be helpful to you. The very first one is to make peace with the fact that the perfect app doesn't exist, right? We all fall into this trap because we start discovering really incredible apps that feel like the ultimate solution to things. They're always going to be lacking in some way or another, and we might just lose a lot of time, lose a lot of our energy if we really think we're gonna find some perfect application with every single feature we need, with every single workflow that we want to create being absolutely perfect in that app. And the truth is that there's no perfect app, right? As I was coming up with the idea for this podcast, I actually tweeted this idea of the stages of productivity app search. I had a few very interesting and insightful replies. There was one by this guy, Angon, and what he said is, I'm gonna quote him, he said, "Maybe it's time to use apps, even imperfect ones, instead of constantly looking for the next best app. Content is more important than form." And I think this is a super insightful and very useful reflection on this, right? Like settling for imperfect apps and actually building a workflow around that. Now, I'm gonna share a bit of my thoughts on that. Like, is it good to just conform to whatever application you're currently using? Or should you try to always seek for something a bit better, right? Roger W., that's his username in Twitter, he said this. I'm gonna quote unquote because these things are really good as they are, so I'm gonna quote it like this. The problem is the attraction phase, with the new and shiny thing, to jump from one app to another instead of staying and solving the actual problem. To which Angon then says, well, I'm gonna paraphrase this a bit. He says that for him, the trick is to have a solid foundation of a few very important applications that are kind of like the cornerstones of his productivity, and these apps enable him to be productive while he allows himself to maybe start discovering some other apps without really shaking the foundations of his work. And I think that is one of the best workflow ideas. In my personal opinion, I've heard a lot of people actually talking about, just choose a tool and use that for as long as you can. Don't switch around, because if you switch around too many times, you're gonna lose on your productivity, you're gonna lose on the current work that you're doing, and instead of doing the work, you're gonna be spending too much time chasing the perfect application, which again doesn't exactly exist, right? But I do believe there's something really interesting about productivity apps and this search and this space that we find ourselves in, where we want to find better applications. We enjoy the process, and that's the thing, right? If you enjoy the process of discovering new applications and you want to see what's out there, for you it's fun. It's almost like a video game. When I discovered how much fun it is to explore productivity apps, this became kind of my video game, right? And it became a gamified experience of trying to discover new features in new applications, seeing how fast I could learn it, in my personal case, seeing how well I could teach it online and that kind of stuff. So to me, it has become a fun process to discover new apps, and kind of the journey of discovering something exciting, something really unique in an application. I sometimes let that inspiring moment or that motivation that I have in the moment as a way for me to be pulled towards doing the work that I want to do. So for instance, writing a book, right? If you always wanted to write a book, maybe if you find an application that is a good experience where you would really enjoy the process of writing a book, that could be enough of a motivation to actually get you started. So you know what I mean? Like, I believe there's some power to the particular tool that you're using and how much it can motivate you. Even the fact of moving from one app to another can be a bit of a motivation, but you definitely need to be cautious. And like these guys on Twitter were saying, it's better to maybe have a solid foundation of what are the core apps that you already use, that you love, that make you more productive, and then having that very safe in a corner where you can actually, when you go to those apps, you know that you're there to do the work. Maybe you can slot some extra time after that, where you can actually say like, okay, now this part of my day, I'm gonna do it for fun, and I'm gonna be exploring other applications just to see what's out there, to see if I find anything better, but really not to fool yourself that the search of the app is actual work. I think that's what the message really is. By the way, thanks to everyone who actually left their interesting and insightful replies on that Twitter thread. I'm definitely going to link it in the description of this podcast, just because I think there's some really useful insights in there that I probably won't manage to cover all of them. Definitely check it out. Definitely leave your opinion in there. I love to know what you think. So to recap a bit on those ideas, I do believe that it's okay to explore different apps for fun and for just, this novelty search that could work as a bit of a motivation burst. I think it's also important, like we were saying previously, to have a bit of a system that really works for you in the long term. Like we were saying, the perfect app does not exist. If we always chase it, if we always aim to find it, we're probably gonna be disappointed. So one of the ideas that I really advocate for, that I really love talking about because I think it's super useful, is the idea of having several apps rather than trying to find one app to rule them all, an all-in-one solution. Instead, I personally believe it's better to diversify your applications so that you actually have the right tool for the right job. If you do want to learn more about that idea, I actually made a video on YouTube about it that might be helpful, so definitely check it out. I'll leave it in the description. So to be honest with you, I do believe that those are the steps that we can take to avoid this frustration cycle. At the end of the day, I do believe that there's something about this process of discovering and trying new tools that is always going to involve a bit of frustration. But as long as we become aware of this cycle and maybe we learn to accept it for what it is without trying to deny it too much or trying to, hide it under the rug, or whenever we're discovering new applications, it's not really work. I think that is kind of like a bit of fun, like you might convince yourself that spending hours and hours trying to find the right tool is part of your work. It might be, I don't know, it could be, but a lot of the times it is just a bit of a hobby. That's how I consider it. That's how I manage to justify all this time I spend trying to discover new apps, so that I don't feel guilty about spending my time like that. It's something I do for fun. And actually, to quote John Lennon, time you enjoy wasting was not wasted. It's an interesting idea that I've debated a lot in my head. I don't know if it's 100% true, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you do enjoy the process of discovering new applications, that's something that you can call your hobby and own it and actually enjoy it for what it is without the guilt that it comes if you call it work and then you're disappointed. You know what I mean? These are ideas that I personally struggle a lot with still. It's not something that I have answers to, and honestly, making this podcast is a bit of a way for me to start the conversation and to probably spark these ideas in your head. So I love to hear your thoughts. Definitely feel free to contact me. You can also comment in that Twitter thread where we can, keep discussing this. As I make my ideas on this concept a bit more concrete, I might compile more of these concepts into a video. We'll see where this takes us. But either way, I hope you enjoyed listening to this. It was awesome discussing this kind of stuff. And if you have any more ideas or topics that you would like me to discuss, I'm always open to ideas. And with that said, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.